Hey y'all, so welcome back to the Bedroom Spice Unfiltered. I'm your host, Deshawn Phillips. If you are new here, excuse me, make sure you guys go ahead and hit the subscribe button because if you don't know, I'm about to tell y'all, this is where we have the real, raw, unfiltered conversations where we talk about dating, relationships, sex, and everything people feel, but they just don't want to say out loud. So, if you guys like a little honesty, controversy, and conversations that's going to hit a nerve, because baby, I'm sure we all can relate to these topics at one point or another. These topics are going to make you actually think and have you feeling like, damn, I really went through that. I'm going through it. I know somebody that went through it. So make sure y'all hit the subscribe button and tap in because baby, these topics are real, hot, raw, and authentic. Okay. Now, this one, what we're going to talk about today is you didn't lose them. You lost who you thought they were. Okay. Now, I'm going to be real with y'all. This is one of those truths that does not hit you right away. It's not something that you realize in the middle of everything. And it's not something that you see clearly right after it ends. This is the kind of realization that tends to sneak up on you later. Like when you actually sit down, everything is quiet and you're not distracted anymore. And then you go to thinking. It is one of those moments that you feel like you lost something real, or it feels like you lost somebody important, or it feels like you lost something that meant a lot to you. So you basically just start telling yourself like, yeah, I miss that person. But if you really slow down and be honest with yourself, a lot of times you don't even miss that person like that. You just missing who you thought that person was. And I know that's not easy to hear because for me, it's not easy to hear as well. Because what it does is it forces you to look at your own perception. It forces you to admit that maybe, just maybe, you wasn't seeing things as clearly as you thought you were. Now, I'm not saying this to come at anybody because like I told y'all, I've been there before, still going through it, okay, at times. It's just a part of life. But hey, I've had situations where I was stuck on somebody and I'm talking about thinking about them heavy, okay? Replaying conversations that we done had, replaying those moments, the good times, just going over everything in my head. Like, yeah, I lost something special. I lost somebody that was really special to me. But when I really think about it and really broke it down all the way and stopped sugarcoating it, I had to really I had to ask myself something that I didn't want to answer at first. Did I actually love that person for who they consistently showed me who they were? Or did I love the version of them that I created in my own head? Because that's what we tend to do, right? That's when everything starts to change. Because a lot of times, what we fall in love with is not the full reality of a person. It's the highlights, the beginning of how they treated us. It's the way they showed up when everything was fresh. It's when everything felt easy, when everything felt exciting. It's the version of them that aligns with what we want. And then we take that version and we build on it, right? When we start filling in those gaps with our own expectations, we start imagining what they could be, not just what they are. We start creating a future in our head based on potential, not consistency. Right? And now we're not just dealing with who they are, we're dealing with who we believe they were capable of becoming, right? Because don't get me wrong, people do change. But then you have some people that you get what you get, right? Those people don't change at all. Like the saying goes, when people show you who they are, believe them, right? Every time somebody shows you something that doesn't match that image, you don't accept it for what it is, right? We say, sometimes we say that, oh, like we make excuses for them. We say, oh, they just going through something. It'll get better. Or it's not that serious. Or nobody's perfect. We all have flaws. Yes, we do all have flaws, but is it really, it's really who they are, but can you really put up with that? Do you deserve that, right? The truth is sitting right in front of you. Can you actually deal with that? But sometimes we don't want to accept the person for who they really are. Because if we was to actually accept that person for who they are, then that would mean is letting go of the version of them that you already gotten attached to, right? Because we tend to only look at the positive and ignore those red flags. And when those red flags start showing, we make excuses for it. When things start falling apart, we're not just dealing with the end of a relationship. We're dealing with the collapse of everything we've built in our mind. All those what ifs or we could have been, coulda, woulda, shoulda. All those plans, those ideas, that future that we started seeing, all of that disappears all at once. And that's why it hurts. It feels so heavy when it does happen. Because we're not just grieving over that person, we're grieving over the version of them that we believed in. We're grieving over that illusion. And that's where those illusions become dangerous because they feel real while we're in them. They feel real when we're talking every day. They feel real when we're laughing, making memories, connecting, and building that emotional bond. It feels real when everything is flowing smoothly. But the problem is those illusions don't require consistency. The reality of it does. And at some point, that reality is going to show up. And when that reality shows up, it doesn't match the version of them that we had in our head. Now things start to feel inconsistent. It starts feeling confusing. And we start questioning where we stand. Now we're trying to figure out why something that felt so good doesn't feel the same anymore. But the truth of the matter is, it's not that it changed out of nowhere. Those red flags were always there. It's just that we're starting to see it clearly now. We're finally starting to see that person for what they've been showing us, not who we wanted them to be. That realization is very uncomfortable. We've all been there at one point or another, probably still going through it. But we have to now admit something to ourselves that our ego doesn't like. We're not losing what we thought we lost. We just misjudged what was actually happening. And that's where, that's a hard pill to swallow because it means that we have to take accountability for ignoring those things. It means we have to admit that the signs were always there, but we chose to look past them. How many times we chose to look past red flags when it was sitting right in front of our face? Not because we didn't see them, but it's because we didn't want them to be true, right? Because we were already emotionally invested. Once we become emotionally invested, it's harder to walk away, right or wrong. It's harder to be objective. It's harder to say, this isn't right for me when part of you is still holding on what could have been. That's how people stay stuck in these relationships that are not beneficial for them. That's how we keep going back to what isn't healthy for us. That's why we keep giving chances over and over and over. That's why, that's how we keep hoping something will change even when a pattern keeps repeating itself. Because we're not just holding on to that person, we're holding on to the idea. The idea always feels better than the reality, but at some point we just have to choose. We have to decide if we're going to keep holding on to what we imagined or accept what's actually being shown to us, because those two things are not the same. Now, once we really fully understand that, it changes how we move completely. We stop falling in love with potential so fast. We stop ignoring things just because we like somebody. We stop building up in our head what we think about the person before they've shown us consistency, right? We start paying attention to patterns and valuing actions over words. And we start to ask ourselves, is this who they are consistently or just in the moment? And that awareness is going to save you from a lot. It's going to save you from investing too deeply into something that isn't solid. It's going to save us from creating attachments to something that isn't stable. It's going to save us from having to go through the same cycle over and over and over again. Because once you stop confusing potential with reality, you're going to stop getting hurt that same way. And I'm not saying it's not gonna hurt at all, because it's gonna hurt, but it won't hit the same, because you're not losing an illusion now. You're just accepting the truth. Now, I want to ask y'all something, and I want y'all to, comment and let me know. Do you actually miss that person, or do you miss who you thought they were? Be honest in the comments. Let me know. And look, if y'all are rocking with conversations like this, real unfiltered, no sugar coating, make sure you guys go ahead and hit the subscribe button and stay tapped in, because we have a lot more hot topics coming. Y'all stay tuned. Thank y'all for tuning in, and I hope y'all enjoyed this episode on the Bedroom Spice Unfiltered.